What's going on YouTube? So after a really long run in the previous generation, we were excited to see the Chevy Equinox finally get redesigned.
And now we've had the chance to spend a full week with this redesigned model to see how it stacks up against all of the competition.
So after putting this to the test, should it jump to the top of your shopping list? Well, let's go ahead and find out. So let's get things started under the hood. What you'll find is a 1.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, which makes 175 horsepower. On your all-wheel drive variant, you have an 8-speed automatic transmission, and the combined fuel economy comes in at 26 mpg.
Now, of course, we can't wait to take this out on a spin, and while we're on that drive, we'll be getting things like our signature sound level reading. We'll also be discussing real-world fuel economy that we've experienced over the past 7 days, and after that, resale and reliability.
But first, let's go ahead and close up the hood, because a big part of this Equinox redesign is the fact that the exterior and interior are vastly improved. So as soon as you walk up to this new Equinox, you're going to notice that it has been made into a very nice and handsome design, very much inspired by the Traverse. Overall shape here is going to be a lot more squared off than before, and you're going to notice that in the grille as well. Now there's 3 trim levels for this new Equinox model. This RS is going to be the sportier looking model. That's why you'll notice all this blacked out elements up here in the front grille, as well as the blacked out bow tie and your RS branding. The Active is going to give you a little bit more of an off-road looking design. We also have a review on that on the channel if you want to check that out. Now, let's take a look at our headlights. Chevy has moved to a standard full LED arrangement across all the trim levels for 2025. This is the actual headlight itself down here. It is a projector LED for low and high beam. Up top, you have your daytime running light and turn signal indicator that is separated out. And some models do also have animations as well. And then finally, you probably noticed this extra light down here at the bottom. This is your available fog light. Now, as far as the back design, just like with the front, you see a lot of influence from the other Chevy products, such as the Traverse.
Yeah, it's kind of like a miniaturized version. And let's go ahead and talk about some of the design touches. You see a spoiler up top. There's also a wiper right here. And then one of the main elements that makes it look like something like a Traverse are these taillights. So Drew went ahead and hopped inside so we can see if all the elements are LED. We have a clear lens. We have an LED brake light and turn signal indicator, as well as the reverse light. That's actually going to be standard on every single Equinox model. Very happy to see that. It's rare in this segment, that's for sure. Now, as we drop down to this lower fascia, this is going to be finished in a piano black for here on the RS. As far as your tow rating, if you choose all-wheel drive, it's 1,500 pounds. If you choose front-wheel drive, it's only 800 pounds.
Now moving on to our wheels, you've got several different options ranging from 17 inches all the way up to 20-inch alloy wheels. So the RS trim comes standard with 19s, that's the largest one. You can get available 20s like I was just mentioning, which is extremely large for the segment. These look quite nice though. I love the contrast design on board. You got a little bit of the matte black trim that runs around the wheel arches to kind of make it look a little bit more rugged. And then since this is the RS, we have a gloss black finish on our mirrors, which have standard blind spot monitoring and heating.
Now at the side, you're going to see kind of a boxy shape take hold, and also you'll notice this piece right here that does look very similar to what you get on the Traverse. Additionally, if you choose an RS or Active, you're going to get the raised roof rails, and while I'm talking about the roof, let's talk about this. We have a blacked out roof here on the RS. You can also get a white roof option on the Active version, so that really helps boost your style for this new Equinox. Now when it comes to your safety systems, I'm sure you're concerned about that because this is a family SUV after all. Chevy's including every single one of those as standard equipment this year. However, do be aware Super Cruise is not available on the Equinox. But guys, let's go ahead and dive into the interior and talk about what we've learned for the past weekend there. But first,
if you're new here, we're brothers and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We may be young, but we love cars.
And we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family. Let's learn a lot, have some fun with all the latest cars.
All right, so let's go ahead and hop inside. First, we'll take a quick look at the key fob. Typical General Motors key fob, you got your Chevy badge right there. Since this begins at the LT trim, we also have a standard remote start in addition to a smart entry system. That means getting inside, you just have to press this chrome button here since there is not a sensor behind the door handle, and that will unlock the door for you. Now, taking a look inside the interior. Guys, this is nothing like the previous generation of the Equinox if you have spent any time with that. They've changed a ton of things, but before we get into those individual details, let's go ahead and start by talking about the seats. So here on the RS trim level, we have the Evo Tex. It is a faux leather seat, as you can see. We've got a lot of different stitching and designs going on through here, a cloth insert, RS branding up there in the headrest as well, and overall it's a very aesthetically pleasing seat with the two different color stitching details. It's also very comfortable as well. I do want to point out though that only black is available here on the RS trim level. If you want the maple sugar interior, you're going to have to get the active trim level. Now, coming down to the seat controls themselves, we do have a power adjusting seat with two-way lumbar support, on this model. And we do also have the available memory seats on the RS. But let's go ahead and get inside. Closing up the door, you will be greeted with a cool animation that goes across the displays. And let's go ahead and talk about the rest of the interior materials for this redesigned cabin. So we'll start out over here on our door trim. We have this kind of leatherette or rubberish textured material that goes through here. It's got an interesting design going on, and again, that two-color stitching detail. This part is going to be hard touch. As we move to the upper part of the dash, this is a soft touch plastic up here. We have more of this trim. Again, this is specific to the RS trim level as well, and you also have the red vents on the RS trim level. And then down here on our console area, none of this is going to be padded on any of the models, but it does feel nice and solid. You have a little bit of piano black around your cup holders as well. But let's go ahead and start it up with the standard push button start. All right, let's jump into some individual details of the interior. One of the big focal points is, of course, the vastly improved technology. So all models come with this 11-inch full digital gauge cluster. It has a lot of different designs that you can choose from, including that full screen Google Maps view, which I know a lot of you guys are going to like. You can also put in your Apple Maps if you want into that screen, and you can go to basic views or things with lots of details on board. Really nice overall. Just be aware you cannot get a head-up display on any model. Now, as we pull back to the steering wheel, you've got a nice leather-wrapped design here. It's flat bottom with our RS branding. The thing I really want to emphasize about this, though, is the fact that Chevy has given all Equinoxes for 2025 standard heating in the steering wheel. That's right, it is standard on all models, and it's really good too. It heats up very nicely on all the top, bottom, and sides. Now, let's get into our interior storage. We'll open up our console here, where you will notice it is loaded down with donuts. That, of course, is the Car Confections logo. That's why we stick it in there and test out the volume with stuffed donuts. Inside of this console, we have 16 donuts. That is a pretty good performance for this segment. It's quite a few. It is nice and deep as well. But the good thing about this Equinox is that the storage continues on from that console. You'll notice you have a little cubby right here. You've got two cup holders. Active and RS trim levels come standard with the wireless phone charging pad. We have a huge bin up here in the front with a couple USB connections. And then you've got another massive amount of space because we have a center pass-through. Altogether, this is really nice storage for this segment of vehicle. Now above, we've got our electronic shifter, which is what saved the space. Just pull down for drive. You do have paddle shifters on the steering wheel at the top, right there. When we go into reverse, you will see either a traditional backup camera or this available 360-degree camera system pop up. Obviously, we have the ladder, and as you can see, you do have active trajectory on board, and you can switch between some different angles down here at the bottom. Then just press the end there for park. You also have an electronic parking brake with auto brake hold. Now, returning our attention over here to this area, we have a dual zone automatic climate setup on both the Active and the RS. It is available on the LT, And you've got these nice traditional knobs here to make your temperature adjustments. No fiddling around with any weird touchscreens or anything like that. Now you'll notice that we also have heated seats and ventilated seats. So ventilated seats especially are kind of rare, I should say, for this segment, or not everything offers them, and they are available on both the RS and Active. They work quite nicely, both the heating and the ventilation. And now let's go ahead and move up here to another knob. That is our volume knob for the audio system. So this has a 6-speaker sound system that's actually standard across all the trim levels, and there is not an available Bose sound system on this model, but let's go ahead and check out this 6-speaker system. So overall, the sound quality of this system is not great. We've found over the last week that it is kind of a weak sounding sound system. There's very little bass to this system. And really the most disappointing part about it is the fact that, once again, you cannot option on a Bose sound system. That's very weird. Most General Motors vehicles do give you an available upgrade sound system, but that's not available on this Equinox for some reason. So you're going to be left with pretty subpar sounding sound quality in this segment of vehicle. Now, let's turn our attention to the technology. Something which is certainly not subpar is this main infotainment screen. So this is an 11.3-inch display. It is standard on all versions, just like with that digital gauge cluster. And one of the nice things about this is the fact that you have your Google apps built in, such as Maps, which I have pulled up right now. You also have your things such as Google Assistant and the Google Play Store. You also have Alexa built into the system as well. And then all models come standard with wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, both of which pair very nicely every single time. Now, taking a look up top, we've got the available digital camera rear view mirror. And then this model is mostly fully loaded, but we are missing one option. That is the available $1,500 panoramic sunroof, which is offered on all 3 trims.
But let's go ahead and dive into the rear seat area for this new Equinox. Now, we did actually spend quite a bit of time in this back seat road tripping this vehicle throughout the last week, and I have to say I've been very pleasantly surprised. It's quite comfortable back here, and as far as space figures are concerned, we have pretty good ones. So we're going to be sitting at about 40 inches of legroom and about 38 inches of headroom. Those are good figures for this segment. That places it at the top of the segment. The only thing I do want to point out is that the rear seats do not recline. So you have like just this one way to sit back here. But overall, they do seem pretty comfortable, and you have a nice fold-down armrest with 2 cup holders inside. Speaking of cup holders, these do fit the Stanley water bottle, and as far as features here in the center, you're probably noticing one of them right off the bat, and that's that we have heated rear seats. That's also a pretty rare feature for this segment. That's optional on RS and Active. Down below that, we have 2 vents and 2 USB ports, which are actually standard on every single model. Now, as we head to the door trim, the door trim is going to be a little cheaper than in the front, so you have a hard touch material up on this part and through a lot of the door trim itself. However, where your arm's going to rest, that's going to be nicely padded. And then as far as door storage, it's a little bit lacking. It's not massive, but it does fit a little bit of a smaller water bottle. That fits in there just fine, but it's not going to fit the Stanley. Now, walking up to the vehicle's tailgate, you will notice a new feature this year. It actually will beep a couple times as you approach. That's their new AutoSense tailgate. And, of course, that means you're going to have a power tailgate. That's standard on RS and Active trim levels. Now, as far as the space back here is concerned, we're sitting at about 30 cubic feet behind the second row of seats. If we fold those seats down, we're looking at 63.5 cubic feet. That is going to be a bit less than some of the main rivals. Toyota RAV4 will be more than that, and the Honda CR-V is going to be a pretty significant margin better. However, I think it's going to be plenty of space for most families. Now, in order to fold the seats, they do fold 60-40 split. You just reach up here and pull the little lever here. It's not too difficult, so I don't think you're going to have too big of a problem with that. And, of course, this is a Car Confections review after all, so we want to get our cargo length, width, and height figures. As far as cargo width, length, excuse me, behind the driver's seat. We're sitting at 71 inches of length, adjusted to Drew, who's 5'8", 36 inches behind the second row of seats, and then we're looking at about 41 inches wide. As far as overall height, that comes in at 29 inches, but that's not the full story, because if we lift this up, you actually have quite a bit of additional underfloor storage. We utilize this this weekend actually to put food so it doesn't slide around, really useful. And there's also a spare tire integrated underneath of there. So pretty happy with the overall cargo experience here in the all-new Equinox. Well, guys, here we are behind the wheel of the all-new Chevy Equinox. In this test drive, we're going to be discussing quite a few different things, as you can see on the screen right now. We'll also be getting our official Kentucky sound level reading now that we have it back for a full week, as well as discussing our real-world fuel economy. But let's go ahead and start with a hard acceleration.
And that was 60 miles per hour. So, as we discussed at the spec dump, there's just one powertrain that will be under the hood of all the Equinoxes for 2025. That's a 1.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. This has 175 horsepower. And then here with the all-wheel drive model, we have 203 pound-feet of torque. So there's actually a little bit of discrepancy between the front-wheel drive and the all-wheel drive in terms of torque. You do get more with all-wheel drive.
Yeah.
But of course, if you're familiar with this segment, you might notice that that is on the lower side of the class for sure. Living with it this week, what we've noticed is that it is a tolerable amount of power. This is not going to be like an extreme difference between, the average thing in the segment, which has maybe 190 to 200 horsepower, but it is noticeable because, of course, at the end of the day, you just have less power, about the same amount of weight, and you have to wait a little bit for the small displacement engine as well to build the boost, so you can kind of feel that dive in torque when it shifts. It does make it feel slower than most of the rivals for sure.
I do like that the torque does push you back in your seat, though. And one thing I do want to point out about this engine is that it is nice and quiet. So even under hard accelerations, it really doesn't sound that unrefined, which is something that I've complained about in the past, definitely with like Toyota RAV4, not in its hybrid configuration. It just gets a little loud under hard acceleration, so I'm happy that this one's on the quieter end.
Yeah, that's definitely important because you do have to kind of rev it out a little bit. We noticed that, sometimes even keeping up with traffic, you'll be at 3,000 or more RPMs, but it is still nice and quiet. Now, as far as the other element of the powertrain, we've got two different transmissions. So you heard us talk about the 8-speed automatic at the beginning, but if you get front-wheel drive, you actually get a CVT. So that's something to keep in mind if you're choosing between front-wheel drive and all-wheel drive. Here with this all-wheel drive model and the 8-speed automatic, overall performance is pretty nice. You put your foot down, you do get a nice shift as well. And overall, you don't have to wait too long to get any types of downshifts.
All right, but we've turned on to a nice highway section, and here is where I want to talk about your overall ride quality. Now, when it comes to the all-new Equinox, we, drove it, I guess a couple months ago at the National Media Drive, several different trim levels as well, and we were pretty pleasantly surprised with the ride quality. And I have to say, living with it for the full week now, I'm also very pleasantly surprised with the ride quality. I think that's one of the highlights of this vehicle's drive experience is just how good it rides. Even here in the RS model, you might think it's going to be sporty or whatnot. Definitely not the case. It has a focus on ride quality to get you that exceptional ride that you're looking for on long road trips. The seats are also very comfortable. Very, very happy with what they've done here. And since we're going 55 miles per hour, another part of the overall drive experience would be your sound level reading. So I'm not going to leave you in suspense any longer. Let's go ahead and get that. I'm going to put it on fan speed 1. All right, let's get the sound level reading. Fan speed 1. we are sitting at 60.1 decibels as our official Kentucky sound level reading in this new Equinox. And we don't have to sit here and guess how it compares to some of the rivals. You can find that at carconfections.com/sound level readings. We've definitely tested out almost every single option. I think actually we have tested out every option on multiple years, so you can see how this Equinox is going to compare. And indeed, that is going to put it on the louder end of the segment when it comes to some of the rivals. But now let's go ahead and get into our Car Confections Slam Dunk and Airball, which is our favorite and our least favorite element. Drew, why don't you go ahead and kick us off with the Slam Dunk for this Equinox?
So for the Slam Dunk, we're going to say the technology. This is really good tech. It's standard, and when you come to live with it, it works really well. Sometimes, you got the big display, right, and it's fancy and flashy, but then when we have it for 7 days, it doesn't actually work all that well. Not the case with this.
Yeah, on the Airball side of the things, though, we really have a problem with the audio system. That's something that you definitely notice if you live with it for 7 days. It's not very good, and especially in like a, fully loaded example, such as this one, you have ventilated seats, a lot of nice features. It seems odd to have such a poor audio system with no option of getting a more expensive or better audio system.
And while I'm still here on this back road, I do want to mention the dynamics. Mason already said earlier that this is not, a sporty SUV, even though it is the RS trim level. And that's certainly the case when it comes to the overall dynamics. Body roll, this is, more pronounced actually than a lot of the competition. It's part of maybe why it rides so nicely, but it does have, pretty pronounced body roll. The steering is going to be very lightweight, so if that's what you're looking for, you'll be satisfied with it. But just be aware that you can't actually go into a sport mode. There is no sport mode on this model at all, so you can't change the throttle response, you can't make the steering any firmer.
And let's also discuss real-world fuel economy. I'm sure you're curious about that. Before I get to that, I want to mention your EPA numbers. What the EPA says is 27 miles per gallon combined for the front-wheel drive version, or 26 mpg if you choose all-wheel drive. As far as our real-world fuel economy, we drove about 329 miles is what I'm looking at right now this week, which is pretty much the full tank of gas, and we were sitting at a little over 27 mpg. Now, we did do mixed city and highway driving, so that pretty much represents your average EPA test figure, and overall it's coming in actually slightly better than the EPA.
Yeah, always happy to see that.
The only unfortunate thing, though, is that they do not offer a Equinox hybrid, which is something that the vast majority of the competition offers that will get you maybe 40 miles per gallon, so you'll be paying more at the pump for this as compared to those hybrid offerings. And lastly, as far as your warranty is concerned, you do have a 3-year 36,000-mile basic warranty and a 5-year 60,000-mile powertrain warranty. You also get a complimentary service visit. And now let's talk about pricing for this new Equinox. We start at under $29,000 for the more basic models. Of course, as you elevate up, you have the RS, which comes in at about $33,000 as your starting point, and then the Active is actually the same price. You kind of just pick which flavor of Equinox you want. If you want all-wheel drive, that raises your price to $35,000. As you can see right there, it's a little bit weird, the font here. We have a couple options on this model, and all told, once we add $1,395 destination, we're sitting at $38,875, which honestly is still quite a bit cheaper than most of the competition when it is fully loaded out. Now, if you're looking to buy a Chevy Equinox or any new vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. Now, the reason you do that is because we have a tool on our website that will connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool for dealership negotiation. If you'd like to take advantage of that, a link is provided in our video description, and we also have a pinned comment at the top of this video. But buying a car is about more than just the original MSRP, so let's go ahead and dive into resale and reliability. So let's start out by discussing resale value. As an economics graduate myself, Drew and I took the time to develop what we think is a good estimate for the Chevy Equinox potential resale value. Now, after 5 years and 60,000 miles, we estimate it'll be worth 54.7% of original MSRP, and after 10 years and 120,000 miles, 20.4%. Now, that's a pretty good resale value by percentage. It's above industry average. However, it's not quite as good as what you'd find in a Toyota, Honda, or a Subaru.
Now, we've also done the same for reliability by developing the Combined Reliability Index. This takes into account several different studies on reliability from trusted sources and combines them in a way that gives you a more holistic picture. In this regard, Chevy is rated well above the industry average in overall reliability. It's actually the second best brand on the list.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about our reliability and resale value data, as well as our methodology, be sure to go to carconfections.com/resale and carconfections.com/reliability. Buying a new vehicle is a very big decision, so you want to make sure you're making a smart purchase, especially if you're cross-shopping between different vehicle brands. And guys, that's going to be all for our in-depth review of the all-new 2025 Chevy Equinox. If you enjoyed hearing about our 7-day impressions of this all-new compact SUV, do yourself a favor and hit that subscribe button down below, because we're going to be making more videos like this on all of the competitive vehicles to this, as well as other Chevy products that you might be interested in. So do yourself a favor, subscribe down below. If you're already a part of our family, thank you so much for your continued support, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.